Since my last update on YouTube, we have seen a lot of volatility on Bitcoin. And even though I wasn't available to film a new update, I was still very active inside of our Discord server. So before we dive into today's price action, the big levels that you must be aware of, and my expectations, I just want to recap what we did since our last update and show you the trades that we took. So if we go inside of our Discord, we have a lot to recap, but I will try to go through it quickly. I will start on the 29th of November. At this point, I was in a long from $95,800, and we wanted to see the fill of the 4-hour imbalance at $98,300. If I open the chart again, $98,300. So let's go forward in time. We got the move up, 98,300. You wanted to see a rejection. At first we saw no reaction, which is why I said that price should be ready for a new all-time high, but then on the 1-hour chart we saw price struggling to close above my level, which is why I said that I was waiting for the 1-hour close to see if I hedge my long position with a short position. What happened? We got the 1-hour close, as you can see, below our level, which is why I decided to hedge my long position. At first we saw a very nice drop to the downside. Of course, I took the short as just outlined at $98,100. And if we go forward in time, we did end up getting a much bigger continuation to the downside. And I implemented the take profit 1 on my short position at $96,000. So I updated the Discord again and said that overall I believe we go lower, but just keep in mind that we had a CME gap above us. So what happened? Price did rally up towards $98,000 once again, but in the end price reversed much lower and we had one support level at $94,700, which did get front run. So at this point, as price did move below the entry of my long position, which was, if you remember, at $95,800, I was stopped out of my long position and I did decide to average down on my short position, as again I did expect lower prices. So let's continue forward. I gave a potential long setup which didn't get offered, but overall on the higher time frames I did believe again that we go lower, and I gave one setup which was a move towards the daily open at $97,400 for a much bigger rejection to the downside. And guess what happened? We got the move up towards $97,400. We saw a rejection, and in the end, we got the much bigger drop to the downside as outlined in my scenario. We reached our support level, and even though I was bearish, what I said was that we could see a bit of a bounce. If you open the next chart, we did get a pretty nice bounce from $94,600 all the way up above $96,000. And at this point, I gave another long setup, which was a drop towards $94,700 for a reversal higher. And what happened? At first, we did front run our level. Again, we got the drop towards the level, but we did front run it, as you can see right there. So at this point, I believe that I wasn't in a long position, as you can see right there actually. I was just holding the rest of my short position, and I was not in any long positions yet. So what I gave as the next setup on the 1-hour chart was a drop towards our support level, which hadn't changed, $94,700, and my target was $97,800. So we got the drop to the downside, and at this point I was very clear. We did front run my level by just a bit, and the reaction was too aggressive. So what I said was that the reaction was a bit too aggressive in my opinion, so we could take the low one more time. And guess what happened? Price came back down, finally tapped my level, took the first low as I expected, and I did average down on my long position. We did get a very nice bounce, and then I implemented the take profit 1 on the long, 94,700 for the entry and 96,100 for the take profit 1. I still expected my target to get reached, $97,800, and in the end the move was pretty quick. We moved higher, higher and higher. We didn't have a short position as price did look very strong. Let's continue forward. We had the SFP of this high, $98,800. So I did decide to take a short position. So I took a short because we had an imbalance at the high, which was this blue candle, plus the SFP of the previous high, which was this one. But this short did end up turning into a loss, and what I said was that I was done for the day and I will just stay long and chill. So I just gave one last update, which was that losing the level at $97,400 would be a big sign of weakness. In the end, price reversed higher without ever losing our level, which was perfect of course, and broke above $100,000. So my next update was that even though we saw a pretty decent drop on the 1 hour chart, I wanted to remain long and chill, but then losing the daily open would be a massive sign of weakness, which was much below us at $98,800. But at this point, this drop was too aggressive in my view, and this is why I decided to implement a take profit to on my long position at $100,000. So again, let's go forward in time. Price still continued lower. And then finally, we got this massive liquidation to the downside, all the way down towards $90,000. So in the end, again, we had a lot of volatility. After this drop, by the way, I didn't take any trades simply because I had a lot to do. And also I did want to let price action play out. So let's go forward in time. We had the first resistance, 99,900. But in the end, I didn't trade this level simply because, again, I was not too interested in trading at this point, just after the bounce. And I did do an update inside our trading updates, which was right there. So it was a support. The only level that looked interesting was $98,100. Let's open the chart. We wanted to see the drop towards 98,100 for a bounce to the upside. Let's go back to the charts. We got the drop towards 98,100 and we got a massive bounce to the upside of 2.5%. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to trade it because I was on the plane. Did I update the Discord? Yes, wasn't able to trade it as I was on the plane, but again, it was a beautiful bounce. In the end, price did end up reversing lower and lost this level. So at this point, I was leaning a bit more bearish than bullish on Bitcoin. And from there, I haven't taken any trades yet. So with all of that said, as you can see, we did offer a lot of setups since our last update. We had a lot of very big wins and just one small loss on this short position, which was again the swing failure pattern of this high. In any case, beautiful setups, big wins, but right now, let's dive into today's price action. So first, if we start on the higher time frames, what you can see on the daily chart is that Bitcoin is still in an uptrend. So being bullish and expecting higher prices does make sense. But if we lose the low of this week at $90,000, then at this point, Bitcoin will start to look very weak and you could expect much lower prices. The first target will still be $85,000 and the second target $80,000 for the fill of this daily imbalance. So then, if we go on the lower time frames and look at what we have one important thing to note in my opinion. And this is of course that we have a massive wick to the downside. And this move filled about the midpoint of this wick. So at some point, I do expect price to come back down and fill out the rest of this wick. So again, a drop towards $90,000. But now, if we just remove these levels and focus on what we have locally, we have very important levels in my opinion. The first one would be this hourly imbalance at $97,400. And if price comes back down and loses this level, then in my opinion, if we see a bounce for example, this could offer a very nice position and I would expect a move much lower for the fill of this wick that we just talked about. So again, the one very important level below us will be $97,400. And then if you look at this move, we have 3 imbalances in a row. And usually when you have a couple of imbalances in a row, you do expect with very high probability that the last imbalance will be filled. So this hourly imbalance, $99,600. And what happened yesterday? Price did come back down, but didn't completely fill this imbalance. So again, at some point, I would expect price to continue lower. So maybe do something like this and fill the rest of this imbalance at $99,600. So basically break back below this low. But as this level is a bit too obvious in my opinion, simply because Bitcoin doesn't offer a lot of swing failure patterns, then I would go back on the 1 hour chart and note the next imbalance, which would be $98,800. And these would be the 2 levels that I would be focused on below us. It would be $98,800 and then $97,400. And again, the major level will remain $97,400. And that's mainly what I'm focused on below price. But then if we look above us to look at the resistances that we have just one level left, which would be the fill of this imbalance at $103,700. And with all of that said, if we stay on the 1 hour chart, in my view, we could try to build a pretty accurate scenario. And this would be that, in my view, of course, we could get a jump, for example, towards $98,800 or maybe even this imbalance. So let's just note out the level at $98,300. So what I would do is remove this level and focus on this area. So let's remake the scenario. So it would be, for example, a drop towards the lower imbalance, $98,300. Then we see a bounce to the upside, another reversal, $97,400, which would be our major level. And from there, I would like to see a bounce towards $103,700. And if we do get this, we have two scenarios left. The first one will be that we get rejection at this level, in which case we could see price ranging for much longer inside of this bigger range between $104,000 and $90,000. So again, we get more range on Bitcoin, or of course we end up moving much lower and filling this wick, which, as I said, I do expect at some point, or we see a smaller rejection, but then we reverse higher, break this level, in which case, of course, we could expect much higher prices, $110,000, $120,000 on Bitcoin. And with all of this in mind, that was mainly it for this update. So a quick recap, on the lower time frames, I still expect a bit lower, simply because price hasn't finished filling this hourly imbalance at $99,600. Below it, we have a pretty interesting area around $98,000, which could offer a small bounce in my opinion. At some point, I would expect to drop towards $97,400. However, I do also expect the fill of the imbalance below us at $103,700, which is why an easy scenario in my opinion would be a drop towards this level, $97,400. Then we see a bounce, and then after this point, we can see what happens if we get a much bigger drop or a small drop before a reversal to the upside and a new all-time high on Bitcoin. So as usual, I hope that you guys enjoyed this update, and if you have any questions, I'm available inside the Discord. So see you soon everyone, and good luck.